Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. This is your host, Dr. Jennifer Shaw. I am excited to introduce you to our guest today, Anna Jones. Anna is a friend of mine. We met over Instagram probably, within the last year. It's been so fun to get to know your journey and just see the incredible work that you do. But so you guys that don't know Anna, she's an emotional freedom coach who loves empowering and guiding highly driven, ambitious, passionate yet sensitive individuals on a journey towards healing generational trauma and moving past their fears so they can finally give themselves permission to experience a life of freedom and joy beyond their wildest dreams. So you guys might have caught something familiar in that intro. You maybe heard the healing generational traumas and said, hey, we've already had this conversation. Well, here's the cool thing about having Anna on the podcast. So I read Mark Wolin's book, It Didn't Start With You, about generational trauma. And I reached out to Mark and asked him to be on the podcast. And he agreed to be on the podcast. And I had spoken with Anna, and Anna, I knew worked a little in this realm. And I was like, how did you get into this? She's like, actually, I took Mark's training. And I was like, oh my God, mind blown. Mark doesn't do one-on-one work anymore. He's really doing bigger speaking engagements and writing his books, which are life-changing. And Anna does a little more of the get her hands dirty work on this generational trauma. And I'm just so excited to bring you another tool because I'm so passionate about this work and the healing it can do. I wanted to bring you another tool in the beautiful vessel of Anna to have a deeper conversation about generational trauma and maybe even give you a source to go get some support as you go on this journey yourself. So thank you for coming to the podcast, Anna. How are you today?
Hey, Jen, I am doing great. Thank you so much for having me. And I love that we're doing this episode right after Mark because I don't know if he mentioned this in the podcast, he's now a blues guitar player. Mm-hmm. So I think that's amazing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was like,
his dreams. He's chasing his dreams, right?
I was like, yeah, he had to heal his stuff so that he could actually do what he truly wanted to do, right? Which, after touching so many lives, he's doing his thing. He's doing his art.
I love it. Yeah. Okay, Anna. So let's chat a little bit about how you came to this place in your life where you are an emotional freedom coach, where you help people break free of their old stories, their old traumas, their generational traumas, and really just embrace their fullest life. Like in a quick version that we can, because it's hard to kind of say well, I've been preparing my whole life, right? But how did you get here?
Yeah, that's a good question. And it is true. It's kind of like my whole life has led me to this moment. And I am what I have experienced, right? Like what you see is, and what I can help people with are things that I am either currently dealing with or have already dealt with. So I know just enough to get you over the hump so that you can live a life that you love. And truly, if I could summarize it, it would be, I followed my curiosity. I have always been extremely curious ever since I was a child. And I got a lot of, I guess, shit for being curious. And then I stopped being so curious because I thought it wasn't like a quote unquote good thing. And I wouldn't be accepted by people or whatever, right? Society, whatever you want to call it. What are people going to say? All that stuff. But it was something that was truly inside of me that I couldn't deny. So I just followed my curiosity, and this is where it has led me.
And it's been quite a fun journey. Like you started your own business as a juicery in Dallas, Texas in 2016. And then so divinely timing, you sold that in 2019. Who knew? Just because you were ready for more and you started to go on this, journey for yourself of self-discovery. And then 2020 really gave you the space to create that. And it's so powerful just to watch you grow and evolve through that. So I love it. Follow your curiosity. And the other thing you said that was very powerful is I am what I have experienced, right? We all have a different journey. we all have different parents. We all have different um, ancestors. We all have different places of like birth and origin. We all have different family dynamic, friends, significant others. Like everything is different. There's literally no other you in this world. So if you had to pinpoint maybe one or two things in life that triggered a large amount of curiosity and led you in this direction, were kind of one of those things that like pinged you back along this road, like what would be some of those bigger pivotal moments?
I mean, now that I'm in this space, I'm having a lot of memories come back to me and moments of little, just like traumatic events that I didn't realize were that traumatic. But I'll tell you one that was actually quite recent. It was well, for me, it feels recent. It was 2 years ago when I discovered that I had inherited a fear of abandonment from my mother. And that was the reason why I had been choosing the partners that I had chosen previously. So that was like the moment where I was like, holy crap. I I have been choosing my life. I have been making decisions in in a reactive mode versus a conscious mode. And that's when I realized I had spent 33 years, because I turned 35 yesterday.
Happy
Um,
birthday.
thank you. Um, I had spent 33 years making choices, and not even because I was making them consciously. I was reacting to life. I was reacting to events. And so that was just, I went through a period of anger, and I totally gave myself permission to be angry. And then I went through a period of sadness, because I believe that first comes anger and then comes sadness. And then it's like, okay, I'm back to joy, right? I can get back to my home base. And I think that that was a really pivotal moment for me, because that just launched me into detective mode. And I just was like, what? Like, I need to know more. And that's kind of like the beautiful thing about me, but that's also the dangerous thing about me, that I can go on for days, staying up super late, waking up early, and just nonstop mole mode, right? Like just digging, 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 digging. So I think that that was, I'm going to go with that being the pivotal moment for me in my life.
Yeah. Yeah. And you start to have that awareness. I remember really understanding that the marriage I was in um, was a duplication of the expression of love I learned as a child and the expression of family dynamic that I learned as a child. And I had just like mirror imaged it. And I was like, this is apparently what my subconscious thought was comfortable, thought was comforting. So I duplicated it. And then I found myself in this position where I was like, well, I don't know what hell is like, but I'm pretty confident that this is it. Like
Yeah.
I was not in a good place. And it was a little heavy of a moment to recognize that my subconscious mind had that much power over my day to day, and that I had just let it direct me in those ways. And I had to really seriously make some shifts. And originally, the first shift was leaving that marriage. But the second big shift was honestly for me, not drinking. Like the second shift for me was a year later. So I left my ex-husband on June 13th, 2018. And on June 11th, 2019, I stopped drinking. And that was like the real big, like, okay, now it's time. All those things you drank away are coming back up. And that
Yeah.
was a hard, interesting time. So when somebody's going through something where they're recognizing a pattern, they're seeing it. So maybe they're seeing duplication in their family dynamic from how they grew up, or in the partners they choose, or in the friendships and boundaries or lack of boundaries they have in friendships. Like no matter where, or even in the bosses and the way their boss treat them, no matter what the patterning is, if someone's seeing that and becoming aware of it, where do you recommend they go from there?
That's a great question. I think that for me, honestly, and I'm going to speak personally, I've always found safety with, and I did a post about this, with the people that are constantly making sure that I'm getting my oil changed, basically.
Yeah.
So I have a therapist, I have a family constellations lady that I go to, I have an Akashic Records woman, I have a therapist slash life coach. Like I have a team of I have a Reiki and angelic Reiki person that I go to as well. So all of these people, whenever I'm going through a tough time, I'm like, hey, like I'll text them like, hey, I need an appointment for this. When can you help me? And that allows me to really nurture myself, because it's not easy, right? It's not easy when you're going through this process of like, holy crap, like this is something that I literally was like a copy paste version of what I saw when I was a child. And I want nothing to do with it, but where to start.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't know where to start. And if you don't have a group of friends that are, supportive of you actually improving your life, because then there's that sensation, that feeling of like, oh, she's going to leave me or he's going to leave me, right? I don't want my friend to get better or to be better. And this is totally subconscious. Nobody wishes us, like I don't want people in the audience to be like, no, but my friends aren't like that. It's totally subconscious. And they probably will be like, no, like it's okay, like you chose this because like what's wrong, and just like justify it. But deep down, when you know that something is off for you. And I think that I really don't think that there is like a method or an equation or something that's like, this is the recipe and everything on this recipe will work for you. No, I think that you have to give yourself permission to get a little lost, but make sure you anchor. Make sure you're anchored somewhere, whether it's with your therapist, coach, supporter, whatever you do, family members, if they're supportive, friendships, whatever, right? Partner, anything that is like, hey, I'm going down the rabbit hole a bit, but if I get a little too, deep, I need you to pull me back up, or like have like a word, right? A special word for like, let's come back up.
Yeah.
I really don't think that there's any other way. There's no like quote unquote safe way to do this.
Or easy button. There's no easy button.
Yeah.
One of the things I like that you said was, okay, so you listed off like 6 different people that are on your team that you have in your back pocket. Now, that might sound a little overwhelming to somebody like just on this journey, but maybe for you, it's starting with a Reiki healer. Maybe for you, it's starting with a therapist. Maybe for you, it's talking to your one best friend. Like I have my best friend of 23 years who I can literally say anything to. She won't judge me, but she will call me on my shit, which is a beautiful balance to have. And it's also nice to know that she does support me no matter what. So maybe that's who it is for you. But one of the things I heard in multiple ways that you said was safety. So what I want to urge people to do is not turn to people that tend to judge them, that tend to tell them what they should do. Like people that allow you to be safe are not the ones that when you call them with a problem, they try to solve it. They're the ones that when you call them with a problem, they listen and then they ask, is there anything I can do to support you? They're not trying to fix you. They're trying to hold space for you. And those are the people you want to lean into. So if you don't have a team yet, or a tribe, or whatever you call it, you need to find a safe person. And maybe that safe person is someone like Anna, who has experience in this. I said your name all New York, Anna, not Anna. I got that. The New York comes out and I'm like, chill it. That does not sound as good as Anna. But yeah, I think it really comes back to that word of safety. And it's something I do talk a lot about here, because we can all probably think of family members, that don't make us feel safe, that we can all probably think of friends that don't really make us feel safe to express our opinions. So I think that's a huge thing when you're struggling. Don't ignore it, don't avoid it, but find those people that hold space for you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great way to say it, because we also have to remember that life is, I always tell people, like, life is a paradox. There's always, it's a yes and then it's a no. It's a no and then it's a yes. So the moment you start to take yourself too seriously, that's the ego taking over. And I mean, the ego is just a conversation in and of itself, right? Because sometimes people want to eliminate it. And I'm like, no, you need it. You know, you need it to actually be on this planet. You need it to survive, and you need to make friends with it. So it really is just, again, going or talking to someone, like you said, where it just feels safe to be you, to express yourself, and to know that you're not going to be judged. Because let's be honest, I mean, when we were talking before we were recording, there are a lot of things that we go through as humans, and we still don't talk about those things. They're still very taboo. They're still like, oh, I don't want people to think I'm crazy. Oh, I don't want people to think this. Guess what? We're all fucking crazy.
Oh yeah, there's a
So
list of them for me that I think are like huge. Like I think we all need to normalize and talk about miscarriages. Why do we not talk about that? I'm sorry, I don't know very many women who've tried to have children who have not had a miscarriage. Two, suicide, suicidal thoughts, depression, anxiety, all of those kind of can be lumped into one big huge category that's like, this is things we all deal with. Like my anxiety is like an everyday friend of mine. My anxiety cycles with my menstrual cycle. Like I'm not, it's part of it. I'm like, oh, my anxiety is kicking in. I'm like 5 days from my cycle. It's like a thing. So that's, I mean, something so many of us deal with. And I also think emotional and physical abuse are things that we need to talk about. Traumas, our past traumas. Yeah. Right? Like these are all things that like I try to bring to the table and have genuine conversations about, so that people listening can say, oh, okay, like substance abuse too, guys. Like I'm sober from alcohol for almost 2 years now. I'm not sober from alcohol because I wanted to just be sober from alcohol. I'm sober from alcohol because I had a problem with alcohol that was my entire adult life and most of my teenage years. If I'm really being honest with myself, like we need to talk about these things. It's okay. I'm not flawed. I'm not broken. I'm just somebody trying to do my best. Right. And I think that's so powerful. It's one of the things you do is you very rawly speak on your social platforms and things about just life. And you make it not so scary for people to ask for help.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for saying that, Jen. I want to say something because I feel like with all these trendings and, you know, and healing, you know, healing being one of them. I have a friend and she asked me yesterday, she's like, Anna, she's like, I'm just curious, like there's no judgment or anything, but I just want to know, like, why are you always like wanting to heal? Like, I don't know, it makes me think like you think that people are broken or that there's a problem to be fixed. And I was like, no. I was like, I actually don't think that we're broken. I don't think anybody needs fixing. I think we're all perfection. I think we're absolutely perfect just the way we are. And it sounds cheesy and it sounds like a Bruno Mars song, but I'm like getting chills all over my body and my eyes just blurred. So I know that that's something that like so true.
Well, so it's not necessarily like this idea. I think you might have just frozen me a little bit. It's not, to me, it's not that we need to heal from anything. It's that we need to heal old stories of us so that true, authentic us can come back out. So does that make sense?
Hey, here I am.
You're back. Yeah.
Yes.
So it's that idea. To me, it's not healing in the way that people are like, I cut my hand, it needs to heal. But it's like this way of like, we've been shown like kind of who we're supposed to be, and we've been told how we're supposed to act, and we've put these masks and layers on ourselves. So to me, healing is finding my authenticity, finding who I am, what makes me tick, what makes me happy. That's healing to me. So it's not trying to fix me. It's trying to find me.
Exactly. It's remembering who you are. It's remembering who you've always been to your core, right? That little 5-year-old little girl that was, playing and being super creative. And what, like as kids, like we don't take shit from anyone. We're just like, we're free. We're doing whatever we want to do. We're saying whatever we want to say. We're hanging out with whoever we want to hang out. It's like now as adults, it's just so, I was giving an analogy in another podcast that I was recording for, and it was in Spanish, so it's not the same. But I was like, for a kid, it's just like if they want a banana, they're like, they don't even think about it. They're like, I want a banana. It's right there. They stand up, go, walk over, grab the banana. As adults, it's like, where's the banana? Oh, I don't know. It's sitting in a table where, oh my gosh, I don't know. Last time I talked to that girl, things weren't the best. And and I don't know. I mean, is it okay? I already ate like 10 bananas. Should I have another banana? Like, there's all this crap that I'm like, just go get the fucking banana. If you want a banana, eat a banana. Like, who cares? And
banana.
And so it's a maybe you're like, oh no, that's a silly example, but it's so true. You wouldn't believe it.
Everything. We overcomplicate everything. We really do. We even overcomplicate healing. Like your friend was overcomplicating the idea of healing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there are people that have some resistance to that, right? There are people that don't want to go inward. There are people that just want to stay in the outward, like, no, I just want to, because we were talking about like medical stuff and like spirituality. And I was like, you can blend both. It doesn't have to be one or the other. So that was just kind of one of the things that I was like, spirituality and science are not, and Mark even talks about this too, like they're not enemies. They're friends. They are actually best friends, but somehow they've got separated because it's easier for when somebody's not spiritually inclined, to be manipulated, to be controlled, and to make them believe that another reality of fear entirely, right? Survival is the only one that exists.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
That reminds me of the book Outwitting the Devil. If you guys haven't read it, read it.
Oh, I haven't, but it's on my to read. I've heard amazing
Call me after. It's so good. It's so good. Yeah. So I think some big points we hit on were, really being accepting of what's coming up for you in life and finding safe place to communicate about it, and know that like this healing journey that you hear all about nowadays is not about fixing you. It's about finding you. So go ahead and find yourself and figure out what makes you really happy. I've had to put very serious boundaries in place and distance myself from family members that were not supportive of my journey of healing, that wanted to keep the blinders on, that just wanted to keep smiling and sweeping things under the rug. And I was like, the rug doesn't even fit in the living room anymore because there's so much shit under it. I can't sweep anything else under it. So if you guys don't want to shake the rug out, then I'm out. And it's a hard thing to do. But, either they'll come around and decide to have those hard conversations, or they won't. But I won't pretend that the hard conversations don't need to be had. And that's the thing I get to control, right? So I think I've always been the one in life that's kind of said the things that people don't want to hear and had those harder conversations. But I know you can relate, Anna. But
yes,
every family needs one of us. That's the truth. Okay, girl, let's wrap this up. I've got some questions for you that I want to go through, that I always go through with my guests. So number one question is, what is your top health and wellness tip for the listeners?
Oh, that's a broad question because there's so many things. I think that for health is truly do what makes you happy. And this is very generic, I know, but it is so true. Like, find the things that make you happy, like painting, I don't know, running, whatever. And that's going to be so much more healthier than getting super, anal and tight and obsessive over following, I don't know, a 5 a.m. rule or the like the keto diet or this or that. I think that just brings so much more health into people's lives because it's coming from you.
Yeah.
Right. Again, go. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I would go with that.
Yeah. Stop checking the boxes, stop following what everybody else tells you to do, and do what you know in your gut you should do. Because if you slow down enough, you'll get that message from your body, from your mind, from your soul. It's the truth.
For sure.
Okay. So what is something you struggle with as far as health and wellness goes, being consistent?
Eating super healthy and super clean. I have my ups and downs, but I have such a sweet tooth naturally that I do have to go like put myself through like little detoxes every now and again because I can overdo the sweets.
I can overdo the salty, but not, I mean, sweets, I like give or take. I got my birthday cake. If you guys didn't see it, was this gorgeous birthday cake that my boyfriend got made for me. It was like a 3-layer pecan cake. It was so good, but half of it in the freezer because me and him were both like, we're caked out. So it's in the freezer and we'll come back to it in a couple months and it'll be delicious. But so what is something that you are most excited about right now?
I'm really excited about this new phase that I'm going into, because you and I were previously talking about just my breakdown, and I feel like I'm in the breakthrough phase. So there's something in the air, there's something inside of me, and I feel like I'm surrounded, that I wake up in the morning and I'm just like, everything looks different. I feel like my eyes had surgery and I just like something was removed and I can see everything brighter now. And no, I'm not on drugs. So,
and just to clarify, there are no psychedelics.
Just FYI. Yes.
I love it. No, and then that comes from that deeper level of healing. And without the valleys, we can't have the peaks. Without the rain, we can't have the sun. Like everything's God. It's yin and yang, and we do have to have those breakdowns to have those breakthroughs. And most of the time, unfortunately, when people are face to face with a breakdown, they run in the opposite direction instead of lean into it. Whereas if you just lean into the discomfort and really sit with why you're having that breakdown, then you can start to have that breakthrough, and it's pretty powerful.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so here's my selfish question, because I'm a bookworm. What is your favorite book?
My favorite book, I feel like the book that I'm reading at the time that I'm reading it is my favorite book. I'm one of like those people.
Yeah, that's
fine. And right now I'm reading a book that's highly spiritual. It's called Ask Your Guides by Sonia Choket.
Okay.
And yeah, it's highly spiritual, and it's about like connecting with your angels, connecting with just the spirit world and everything, which I'm totally about these days. It's actually something that I feel I've suppressed for a long time. So I'm like coming out of the spiritual closet, and I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I'm like, is this how like gay people feel when they come out? Like, is this how amazing it feels? Because this feels pretty amazing. So yeah, that's what I'm reading right now, and I'm really enjoying it. And I have the Audible just because it's more convenient for me, but I am going to buy the book because I want to have it physically and take notes. So yeah.
Okay, really last question. Where can people find you?
I'm very active on Instagram, and active, quote unquote, as active as I can be. But once you go on there, you can see all my info, what I do, all that good stuff. And you also have access to my newsletter, website, and Facebook group. So that's a really good way to start.
Awesome, guys. So her Instagram is Anna C. Jones, ANAC Jones, JONES, all one word. Go ahead and check her out on Instagram. And thank you so much, Anna, for being on the podcast. I truly appreciate you taking the time to tune in and jump on this conversation with us. It was a pleasure to dive deep with you.
Thank you so much, Jen.
And listeners, until next time, we'll see you next week on the podcast. Namaste.